Pale Directive. Training Module 18. Classification: Eyes Only. Tier 1. Threat Designation: EA-18. Dead Grave. This material is approved for internal distribution only. Unauthorized duplication or verbal disclosure of EA-18 parameters to non-cleared personnel is a violation of the Security Act of 1939. This will result in immediate disciplinary action, including reassignment to high attrition operational theaters. All reference data is current as of June 1944. The soil in active engagement zones does not usually maintain a constant temperature of 37 degrees Celsius. When geological readings indicate a sustained thermal output matching human body temperature across a wide area, the sector is to be immediately designated as a containment zone for EA-18 Dead Grave. EA-18 is a self-architecting environmental anomaly. It is characterized by the rapid conversion of biological mass into complex subterranean military structures. It was first catalogued during the 1941 North African campaign. Retrospective analysis of battlefield disappearances suggests activity as early as the invasion of Poland. The anomaly manifests as a surface radius of approximately 450 meters. This is not a static boundary. Documentation confirms the radius expands at a rate of 0.2 meters for every integrated biological unit. In high casualty sectors such as the Liri Valley, this expansion has been recorded at 3 to 5 meters per hour. The surface of EA-18 exhibits a selective subsidence reflex. Non-organic matter is systematically rejected by the substrate. This includes steel helmets, lead ammunition, and brass shell casings. These items are pushed to the surface in sorted mounds. They are often mistaken by incoming reconnaissance units for organized salvage piles. Conversely, all organic matter is drawn downward through contraction pores. These are sphincter-like openings in the topsoil that dilate and constrict in response to pressure. The subterranean depth of the anomaly has been measured at 82 meters. It features distinct levels that correlate to the volume of mass consumed. As more personnel enter the radius, the structure grows deeper and more complex. It is a misconception that EA-18 is a localized digestive event. EA-18 does not merely consume, it harvests. It uses the skeletal systems of integrated units for structural rebar. It uses the dermis for flexible waterproofing of interior chambers. It repurposes the central nervous systems for a crude form of electrical wiring. The depth of the structure is not limited by geology, but by the availability of processed marrow. There is no recorded limit to the horizontal expansion of a mature structure. All documentation of EA-18 Dead Grave begins with the observation of a clean battlefield. In sectors where EA-18 is active, the typical debris of conflict, specifically human and animal remains, is absent. The ground surface exhibits a variable density that defies standard geological surveying. Soil that appears firm under the weight of a heavy transport vehicle, such as a CCKW-2 5-ton truck, may suddenly liquefy when stepped upon by a single operative. Initial contact is marked by the appearance of contraction pores. These pores range from 10 centimeters to 2 meters in diameter. They remain indistinguishable from standard mud until triggered by the warmth of a living organism. Upon contact, the pore creates a localized vacuum. This draws the subject downward into the subsurface weave. During this initial phase, the anomaly remains reactive. It does not actively pursue subjects beyond its radius. Instead, it employs tactical structural mimicry to draw personnel deeper into the hazard zone. The anomaly has been observed arranging calcified remains and compressed earth into geometric patterns. These are often identical to British Type 24 pillboxes or standard Allied trench systems. To an exhausted infantry unit, the anomaly presents itself as a pre-existing, fortified defensive position. Operatives seeking cover within these pillboxes often find the walls are composed of a bone lattice that is still warm to the touch. This mimicry is precise. It includes firing slits, internal bracing, and what appear to be ammunition storage alcoves. However, once a unit enters these structures, the contraction pores in the flooring trigger simultaneously. This initiates the integration process for the entire squad. This mimicry is documented under Appendix G as a primary baiting mechanism. It continues to result in high attrition rates among non-cleared personnel. The mimicry adapts to the nationality of the integrated personnel. As the volume of integrated mass increases, EA-18 Dead Grave begins a process of internal specialization. The architecture is not random. It is a functional mimicry of high-level military infrastructure. Analysis of Sub-Level 2 and Sub-Level 3 indicates that the anomaly prioritizes the integration of high-ranking personnel or technical specialists. The nervous systems of these individuals are not destroyed. Instead, they are extracted. They are woven into the command sections of the subterranean architecture. These neural clusters form the wiring mentioned previously. The institution has discovered that these harvested central nervous systems remain partially active. They are responsive to external stimuli. Current research protocols involve the intentional introduction of captured intelligence officers into EA-18 contraction pores in Sector Redacted. The objective is to determine if the resulting subterranean bunker can be utilized as a biological processor for the decryption of Enigma codes. The anomaly appears to learn from the information contained within the integrated neural tissue. Early manifestations produced simple trenches. Current manifestations in the Italian theater are producing multi-level bunkers. These bunkers feature functional ventilation shafts constructed from fused respiratory tracts. This is a directed engineering event. The marrow oil byproduct is a thick, calcium-rich white sludge. It is produced during the bone weaving process. It is often found coating the interior walls of these structures. While this oil has heat-resistant properties, its presence indicates that the anomaly is currently knitting new structural reinforcements. If you find marrow oil on your equipment, it is an indication that you have already triggered a tactile response from the substrate. This requires an immediate exit from the sector. The anomaly does not signal its intent to integrate until the structural bond is sufficient to prevent withdrawal. The most significant behavioral threat posed by EA-18 Dead Grave is not physical subsidence. It is a phenomenon designated as somatic resonance. This is the mechanism by which the anomaly facilitates the integration of sedentary subjects. The ground within the EA-18 radius emits a low-frequency hum. This hum mirrors human REM sleep brainwaves. It is often mistaken for the distant sound of heavy machinery or idling tanks. This is a normalcy anchor that encourages operatives to remain in place during rest cycles. When an operative remains stationary on the surface of EA-18 for more than 120 seconds, the frequency stabilizes at exactly 14 Hz. This frequency is a data point in our operational assessment. It is also a weapon. The vibration induces a state of waking paralysis. The subject remains conscious, but loses the ability to initiate motor function. This is categorized as the swallow reflex of the anomaly. During this state, the ground surface begins to soften. The contraction pores begin to weave fibers of biological membrane into the operative's fatigues and skin. The paralysis is reinforced by the linger effect. If an operative stands stationary for the required duration, the ground begins to vibrate in a way that creates somatic echolocation. The frequency causes the operative to hear their own internal thoughts being whispered back to them from the soil. This occurs with a 1-5-second delay. This creates a recursive mental loop that facilitates paralysis. All personnel who experience auditory duplication are required to file Form 18D upon extraction. The signals recorded from Sub-Level 3 confirm that integrated neural tissue remains capable of experiencing physical stimuli for a period exceeding 400 days post-burial. The resulting high-frequency vocalizations are used by the anomaly to regulate the internal oxygen saturation of the bunker's lower levels. Standard engagement protocols are ineffective against EA-18 Dead Grave. The anomaly is not a singular organism. It cannot be neutralized through conventional trauma. Attempts to use high-explosive ordnance result in a counterproductive structural response. This includes the No. 36 Mills grenade or standard 81 mm mortar fire. When the surface of EA-18 is struck by an explosive, the wound in the ground does not remain open. Instead, the anomaly responds with an immediate surge of marrow oil and calcified fluid to the site of the blast. The area scabs over within minutes. This forms a reinforced bone lattice. It is significantly harder to traverse or penetrate than the original topsoil. This makes the area functionally impassable for follow-up units. It also armors the subterranean levels against further bombardment. Direct fire from small arms produces no measurable effect on the substrate. This includes the M1 Garand and the Thompson M1928A1. In several documented cases, operatives have attempted to shoot their way out of a contraction pore. The 30-06 Springfield and 45 ACP rounds are simply absorbed into the viscous subsurface layer. Furthermore, the use of marrow oil as a field lubricant for these weapons is strictly prohibited by Ordnance Memo 42B. Although the oil appears to be an effective lubricant, it has been observed to knit the moving parts of an M1 Garand into a solid organic lump within 48 hours of application. This process is irreversible. It results in the total loss of the weapon. Neutralization of EA-18 is not currently an authorized mission objective. Operational goals are limited to bypass and containment. Engagement is categorized as a delay action only. The institution's attempts to excavate EA-18 structures using heavy engineering equipment have been suspended. This followed the events in Sector Redacted. Mechanical shovels and bulldozers were found to be susceptible to the same integration reflex as biological units. The Anomaly appears to bond with the metal surfaces of the machinery. It uses the same dermal waterproofing it uses for its own interior walls. Witness accounts from the redacted detachment describe the ground reaching for the undercarriages of transport trucks. Once the vehicles were immobilized by the 14 Hz resonance, the contraction pores dilated. They accommodated the entire mass of the machines. The steel was later rejected and pushed to the surface in a mangled, sorted pile. However, the rubber tires, leather seating, and organic fluids were retained for structural use. The point of helplessness occurs when an operative realizes that every action taken against the Anomaly provides it with more material. A grenade creates a bone scar. A casualty provides neural wiring. There is no documented case of a successful kill on an EA-18 Anomaly. All recorded interactions end in either a successful tactical withdrawal or total systemic integration. The institution has filed these outcomes under environmental hazard non-mitigable. This reflects the reality that EA-18 is a permanent modification of the landscape. Once an EA-18 structure is built, it remains active as long as there is a consistent influx of biological mass. This mass maintains the 37-degree surface temperature. The presence of the structure serves as a navigational hazard for all subsequent operations in the sector. Survival within an EA-18 dead grave zone is dependent on strict adherence to movement doctrine. You are responsible for your own displacement. The institution will not authorize extraction missions for personnel who have entered the waking paralysis state. 1. Maintain constant motion. Do not remain stationary for more than 60 seconds. This prevents the stabilization of the 14 Hz somatic resonance. 2. Implement step timing. When moving through a suspected EA-18 sector, operatives must utilize a non-rhythmic walking pace. Standard military marching facilitates the Anomaly's swallow reflex. It provides a consistent pressure signature. Vary your stride and pace every 10 meters. 3. Avoid identified mimicry. Do not enter any fortification, trench, or pillbox that exhibits a surface temperature above the ambient environment. If the walls of a bunker feel warm or soft, you are inside an EA-18 contraction chamber. Exit immediately. 4. Discard organic contaminants. If marrow oil or white sludge contacts your skin or gear, it must be removed immediately. Use a chemical drying agent. Failure to do so will result in the oil weaving your equipment to your person. 5. Monitor subsurface vocalizations. If you begin to hear your own thoughts with a 1-5-second delay, you have been stationary for too long. Discharge your sidearm into the ground at your feet. This is not to damage the Anomaly. It could be a sensory shock that may break the mental loop. 6. Mandatory boots on inspection. Every 240 minutes, operatives must inspect the soles of their boots for calcification or bonding. In the event that primary protocols fail and an operative becomes integrated into a contraction pore, the following contingency steps must be taken immediately. 7. Immediate field amputation. If a lower limb is drawn into a contraction pore and a no 36M desiccator grenade is not available, the operative must perform an immediate field amputation at the knee. The Anomaly's integration fibers move upward through the nervous system. The rate is approximately 0.5 meters per minute. 8. Sever equipment straps. Do not attempt to recover equipment that has begun to sink into the substrate. If a radio, weapon, or pack is caught in a contraction pore, sever the straps immediately. Attempting to pull the item back only increases the pressure on the pore. This triggers a secondary suction reflex. Joe. Chemical barrier deployment. If you are unable to move, deploy a number 36M desiccator grenade at your feet. This will provide a 5-minute window of soil paralysis. 10. Post-contact reporting. Any operative who successfully extracts from a contraction pore must report to a medical officer for fiber removal. Failure to comply with these procedures results in total systemic integration within 4 minutes of initial pore contact. Once the integration fibers reach the spinal column, motor control is permanently ceded to the EA-18 architecture. The institution views this as operator error. No recovery operation has been authorized for integrated personnel. Their presence is now a functional component of the subterranean structure. Compliance with Procedure 7 is the only documented method for surviving a deep pore trigger. The following equipment has been issued for operations within known EA-18 dead grave sectors. Possession of this gear is mandatory for all personnel in the Italian campaign. M. 1943. Zinc-lined combat boots. EA-18. Z. These boots feature a specialized galvanized coating on the soles and lower uppers. The zinc acts as a chemical deterrent to the contraction pore's tactile sensors. This is partially effective. It delays the integration reflex for up to 30 minutes of stationary contact. It does not provide immunity. No. 36M. Desiccator grenade. This is a modification of the standard Mills bomb. Instead of high explosives, this canister releases a concentrated chemical drying agent. Upon detonation, it temporarily paralyzes a 5-meter radius of EA-18 soil. It does this by rapidly extracting all moisture from the local contraction pores. This is the only effective tool for self-extraction. It is rated as essential for all field operatives. Use of the No 36M for any purpose other than EA-18 extraction is a procedural violation. The effectiveness of the M1943 boots is reduced by 80% if the zinc coating is scratched or compromised by rough terrain. Operatives are instructed to check the soles twice daily. SCR 300 Dead Channel Modification. This field radio has been modified. It operates on the specific low-frequency bands emitted by the EA-18 neural wiring. This modification is ineffective for standard communication between units. It is issued solely to monitor the subterranean vocalizations of integrated personnel. These signals are used by the institution to map the progress of subterranean construction. They gather data on the biological processor efficiency. 8. Form 18E requisition. All used desiccator grenades must be reported via Form 18E within 24 hours of use. Loss of M1943. Zinc-lined boots. Due to integration, is a matter for the quartermaster. It will result in a deduction from the operative's pay. Maintenance of the zinc coating is the responsibility of the individual soldier. Any scratching or wear on the sole of the boot renders the chemical barrier void. Inspect your footwear every morning and every evening. The institution has done its paperwork. You must do yours. Personnel failing to maintain their M1943 boots will be marked as non-compliant for all subsequent extraction requests. If your equipment is integrated, it is considered lost. No replacement will be issued in the field. Incident Report. 88 Beta. Sector. Liri Valley, Italy. 1944. Operative. Corporal Arthur Penhaligon. 4th. Infantry Division. During the push toward the Gothic Line, Corporal Penhaligon attempted to recover a high-value SCR 300 field radio that was sinking into a localized mud patch. He followed standard recovery protocol for equipment but refused to sever the radio strap when the contraction pore began to weave into his fatigues. Subject was fully integrated while attempting to report the equipment loss. His last transmission was a rhythmic recitation of radio maintenance codes, dictated by the Anomaly's influence on his vocal cords as they were being woven into the subsurface command section. The failure to sever the strap is categorized as operator error. No recovery operation was authorized. The SCR-300 remains functional and continues to transmit structural integrity data from within the wall. The structures produced by EA-18 Dead Grave are not to be viewed as monuments to the lost. They are functional military assets of an unknown nature. They are being studied for the benefit of Allied intelligence. Your role is to avoid integration while maintaining the operational perimeter. Pale Directive. End of module. Compliance is survival.